My name's John. I'm an addict. It's damn good to be standing up here. Let me tell you that. And there is quite a few of y'all out there. I don't know if you know that or not. I want to apologize to the hearing impaired. Don't blame the interpretation of what I say on your interpreter, because there's no way she's going to keep up with everything I say.
I'll challenge you on that.
All right. Don't encourage me, please. You know, y'all took a risk getting me over here. I tell you that right now. So this is probably the most open-minded convention committee ever put together. And I'd like to tell you, just right off from the start, anything I say that touches or reaches anybody in a good way, that comes from the God of my understanding, period, bar none. And of course, the things I say you don't like, you see Joseph after the meeting, because he's the one that got me here. On the way out here on the airplane from Chicago, a guy asked me, you know, what are you going to Portland for? And by the time we touched down in Portland, you know, I was about halfway through the answer why I was here. But I can tell you one thing, if he ever runs across somebody who needs help from the disease of addiction, I guarantee you he sends me to Narcotics Anonymous. We were shopping in some district where there's the most highest priced goods. I know that because my wife was down there. And the lady in the store said, what are you here for? And I said, well, I'm here for a Narcotics Anonymous convention. You know, I love to talk about Narcotics everywhere I go, mainly because I know whoever I'm talking to probably doesn't know anything about it, and I'm going to come across as the wizard in the conversation. And I like that. They wouldn't know if I was dumb or smart when it comes to NA. But this lady said, you know, I said, we were talking, and it come out that I was speaking. She goes, oh, you're going to tell your war story. I said, no, I don't do that. I share my recovery, you know, mainly because I don't have enough time to really go into stories. But she told me she went to an AA meeting one time with her boyfriend, and all they did was tell war stories. She said, man, I was so depressed by the time I left there. I said, we're not depressed in NA. We don't come here to hear stories and get depressed. We come here to heal and recover from the disease of addiction. I'm going to tell you how I did it. And nothing new. What I've done was done before me. When I'm gone, they'll be doing it after me. So there's nothing original about this talk. And I know I got some predecessors in this room too. I know who you are. You don't know me, but I know you. And if I don't get this right, it's your own fault, because you're who I learned it from. So, and I keep that in mind when I'm helping people come along too. So, you know, I got a lot of gratitude for you old guys and girls who are here before me, because if it weren't for y'all, I wouldn't be here right now. I know that to be a fact. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Toward the end of my using career, doesn't really matter how much I use or how often. You can say it was a lot, as often as I could get it. And I'm from Virginia. Keep that in mind. I was coming to one evening in Denver, Colorado, and I was living in a hallway in the basement of an apartment building where the owner of the building put a piece of, you know, what do they call that? Veneer wood. It wasn't even wood, just a piece of veneer. And I was sleeping in this hallway in the basement, and I had about $10 to my name. And, you know, it was cold. It was January, Denver, you know. It's cold in Denver in January. And long story how I got there, I'm walking out, $10, what do I do? I found myself down by the Park Pond in Denver, Colorado. They got this nice little city park, and I'm watching the ducks on the pond. I'm getting kind of hungry about this time. And I noticed these ducks eating dog food out of bowls on the patios, nice houses around this pond. So I'm a duck hunter from way back, by the way, and I thought I'd do some urban duck hunting because I was hungry. So I got some dog food out of one of them dog bowls, and I started feeding these ducks, and they get closer and closer and closer. Finally, one ate that dog food out of my hand, at which time I snatched it by the neck, spun it around, broke its neck, and I went back to that apartment, and I'm here to tell you, I embarked on one of the best duck dinners I've ever eaten in my life. And the best part about it was I had enough money left over. I bought me a bottle of liquor, man, because that $10 got me a pack of cigarettes, a bottle of liquor, and I sat there, I ate that duck, I bowled it, I drank that liquor and smoked all them cigarettes. And all I know is I came to real early in the morning, spitting feathers out my mouth, because I'm not a good cook. I am now, I wasn't then. And I stepped out because I just became homeless. I was 21 years old. If I had time, I'd tell you all my accomplishments and unaccomplishments up until that time. And I was a lost soul, did not know what to do or what I was going to do. And I'm standing out there, broke, homeless, cold. I pissed my pants the night before because that's what I did when I used. I couldn't come to get up and go to the bathroom like normal people. And I'm looking there, and then right across the street, I'm on Aurora, Colorado, on Colfax Avenue. And I'm standing there, and I see this Navy recruiting poster. And I'm looking at that thing, and it's looking at me, and it said, it's not just a job, it's an adventure. And I'm thinking, I like adventures. Now, I tell this story because this is where my thinking was at the time. Keep in mind, I think I'm a wizard, and I still think I'm one. But that's my best thinking said, go across the street and join the Navy. Be their problem. And that's exactly what I did. I walked across that street. I strutted. In the Navy now. And I bust up through that door. And the only thing in there, it was early. A Marine recruiter. Navy ain't got up yet. And I told him, I'm here to join the Navy. And he said, he looked at me, and I could tell he smelled me, but he wasn't quite sure what to make. He said, well, you know what? This might be your lucky day, because today we're running a special. You can be in the Navy and be a Marine. And I thought, got to thinking for a while, and I said, no, I'm here to join the Navy. He said, wait a minute. The Marine Corps is a department of the Navy. You know, trust me, you can do it all. All right, what the hell? Well, within 36 hours, I'm standing on a little yellow feet print in San Diego, California, Marine Corps Recruit Depot, training, call it what you want. And I'm sitting there getting chewed out by a bunch of green monkeys in these outfits, and I'm sitting there thinking, what have I done? I've done a lot of dumb things in my life up until that point. And I'm sitting there, for the last time until I hit recovery, I started saying some prayers. You know, get me out of this one. Well, a couple months into that little journey, I got to thinking, this is horrible. The best thing I can come up with, because I'm a good thinker, remember I'm a wizard. I'm going to jump off the second-story barrack ledge and break my leg. They'll have to get rid of me. Because I didn't want to come across as a coward. And right before I got to that point, they tested us, and they brought a few of us together. And you know, keep in mind, when the recruiter told me, go in, open contract, and just tell the DI when you get there what you want to do. He said that to a lot of guys, come to find out. But they tested us, and they came to us, a group of them, and said, you know, here's a list of things you can do, and B, if you like, all you have to do is extend for a year, because I was a 3-year enlistee at the time. And I got to thinking, who would extend for a year? I'm thinking of ways to get out of here. But they made us look at the list, and this is 1980, and it had a computer programming operating, something new coming around in the world, and I'm thinking, that don't look good. And they had aircraft mechanic, engine mechanic. You know, I was just doing what the DI said, looking at them things, and there, way at the bottom it said field radio operator. All I saw was that word, Hawaii. And I'm thinking, hula dancers and Hawaiian reefer, baby. I couldn't sign up for another year quick enough. And just for that instant, I had that great thinking. See, the thinking part is what I'm talking about right now. Because you need to know, my very best thinking got me here. So I'm demonstrating how broken my thinking was prior to getting here. Well, I got to go to the Marine Corps in Hawaii, become a radio man. I know what a field radio operator is now. We in the infantry that get to carry the radio. We get shot first. And The pot was damn good, very expensive. I mean, how you supposed to smoke this stuff every day on the kind of money we were making? And nothing changed. Nothing changed. I took my disease with me. And I acted out twice a month. That's how much they paid me. That's how much I could act out, and I maintained in between paydays. They put me on amphibious assault ships and sent me all over the world, several times, matter of fact. And in between paydays, I was a poster Marine. On paydays, I was one of the most pathetic addicts you ever seen in active addiction in your life. So many times I kept getting in trouble. Ronald Reagan, when he became president, he made it a law that every military installation that had over 10,000 troops had to have a treatment center on it. And if you had an incident involving drugs or alcohol, you had to go to treatment. Well, I was fortunate. I kept ducking that opportunity. And one time they captured me. And they sent me down to this treatment center on base. And I wasn't happy, but the options weren't that good either. Because I had to either go to Pearl Harbor Brig, end up at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where I go down to that treatment center on base and pay close attention. And maybe, just maybe, things won't end so bad. That day was August 10th, 1982, and to this day that remains my clean date. Now I had a little knowledge of 12-step program, even though I'd never been around one before myself. But my dad had got sober in AA 5 years prior to that. And when I got in treatment, they explained to me how they're going to teach us about this disease of addiction. They called it alcoholism and addiction back then because I did it all. And they said at nighttime you're going to go out to these meetings in town. You're either going to go to AA or NA. And they only had 2 NA meetings a week in Hawaii, and the rest were other ones. Now, let me ask y'all a question. I don't know how y'all take this talk. Do I say the other fellowship, or do I say AA? We got to have a vote right here, right now. How many in favor of me saying the other fellowship, raise your hand. All right, how many in favor of just calling it what it was, AA, raise your hand. All right, just for the record, the AA wins. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm a purist of the purest form. I'm actually what they call a spiritual purist, and I can prove that later on in my talk. In that treatment center, it was awesome, man. I got to tell you the truth. It was a 42-day inpatient, and I mean, I arrived at the right place at the right time in my life. And I'm going to tell you about them meetings they took us to at night. I went to them meetings, and the first meeting I went to, first one, off of that base, I just found out today because I wasn't sure if it was AA or NA, but it's confirmed. I can prove that too. It was a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Can you imagine that, walking in your first NA meeting and standing up here almost 24 years later telling that story? And I just confirmed that it was an NA meeting. I was always not sure. Now the reason I can confirm that because there's a lady in the room tonight. Her name's Claudia. She's from Hawaii. She was at that meeting. When I saw her early, when she went out of the water. Yeah, I knew you couldn't keep up with my ass. Anyways, for 40, all right. I asked for that, whatever it was, I'm sure. I'm that kind of guy. Anyways, for 42 days, they were telling me about this disease, how it's fatal, incurable, progressive. Anybody who gets it, they all end up the same. Jails, institutions, or die, or go on living a pathetic life, or perhaps recovering. The choice is yours. And they were reinforcing that with, these are very important things you got to do, I think. I wasn't using drugs. The fog was lifting, okay? I was in a little bit of trouble, so I had a bit of an open mind. And I was getting a little bit honest because these meetings I was going to, all these people who were talking, man, I was starting to relate to what they were saying. And they told me, listen to the stuff that makes sense to you and don't listen to the stuff you don't like. In other words, focus on the similarities, not the differences, and you'll get a lot out of this. And I thought, well, I can do that. And they started saying things like, if you want what we got, do what we do, and you'll get what we got. And at that time, all I was noticing were them pretty girls and them nice cars and them nice clothes. And I got to thinking, you need to tell me if I don't use drugs, I can get one of them? And I ain't got to pay for it? Because up until that time, I had to pay for anything I got, only if I had money. And so I felt challenged. I really did. Now, I immediately had some benefit from not using. No more pissing my pants at night. I wasn't throwing up. I wasn't beat half to death because I was a very violent individual. The black eyes went away. The lips were healing up. And I was feeling good, man. People were talking to me, giving me hugs. They were, pretty nice folks. And I think it's fair to say, I got no problem saying this part, I noticed that the NA people were a little bit wild and crazy compared to the AA people. There was a couple clean people in NA, old timers. I call them the 2 times. And then there were people like Claudia, they had a few years, I think. And they were nervous of the Marines. I can tell you that right now. One time I was at the meeting and the guy said, you Marines, all you do is you come in here, you drink our coffee, you don't put no money in the basket, and you screw our women. And you don't stay clean. Well, they were right on a few of them things, but not all of them. Anyways, I got to really get to the recovery piece. They said, you know what, don't use no matter what, your life will get better. And then somebody in the meeting would say, keep coming back, it gets better. And I'm sitting there thinking, when is it going to get better? And get a sponsor, get a home group, work the steps. We all hear that. They made me get a sponsor before I got out of rehab. I had me a sponsor. I started working them steps as diligently as I could. I followed my sponsor's exact instructions. I was one of those who, by just the way it worked out, I had my first step done my first month, the second step done the second month, the third step done the third month, the fourth step done the fourth month. I did my fifth step, my 5th month clean. I'm going to tell you about my 5th step. When I shared my 5th step with my sponsor, the most important thing I think I did was I believe they said, you say everything you can ever think of that might countermatter. You get it out right now. I did that. I had a sponsor I believed in, I trusted, I knew he had my best interest in heart, he wasn't going to hurt me, and I shared my 5th step. Anything that came to my mind, it came out and he got it, everything. And I mean, there's some stuff on there I still ain't heard people talk to me about it. I've done a lot of 5th steps with a lot of people. They've done some other things worse, but not these things. Anyways, when I got done, I have to tell you something, man, the weight of the world lifted off of my shoulders. I was one of those people who had a knot that released, that was in my stomach for years. Now, I'm not calling that a spiritual awakening, but it was a bit of an epiphany for me. Because that showed me that this thing is working, not just physically in my life, but something mentally and spiritually is taking place here. I was one of those people who I believed, as I did each step, a piece of me was coming alive. I could feel it. I knew something was happening. I was changing. I later found out, step by step, my spirit was coming alive. And it wasn't until I got to that 12th step when I had my spiritual awakening when I knew what was taking place. But that came a few years later. They said, you go to any length. You got to do whatever it takes to stay clean. I had to get on an amphibious assault ship and go back over to the Far East and the Middle East clean. You don't do that in the Marine Corps. No Marine has ever gone on a Westpac and come back clean. It just never happened. And they knew it wasn't going to happen for me. Matter of fact, I had a counselor in treatment told me you can't stay clean. Matter of fact, you can't get across that parking lot clean. Well, I got news for him, big boy. I'm still walking, baby, and I'm still clean. So, in 1982, you could not find a whole lot of NA meetings around the world. They weren't there. Matter of fact, I think we had 1,200 in the world a week that time. So I went to meetings everywhere I went. I started a meeting on ship every Wednesday night. We had what we called the full fellowship meeting. And, I stayed clean everywhere I went. The thing worked. You know what I mean? I wasn't the happiest guy in the world, but I was no longer that miserable person I used to be. My time in the Marine Corps came to an end. I had to make a decision. Do I want to re-enlist or I want to go back to Virginia and be rich and famous? And that first sergeant, actually they brought in the battalion, the brigade. The brigade sergeant major sat me down and said, Marine, we like you. We'd like to keep you. And, just a month before that, I got Marine of the Month. Now, during that process, there's 5 sergeant majors. And they said, why should we give you Marine of the Month? You've had 5 times you've been to jail in the Marine Corps alone. I said, well, I've been clean now over a year. My life's good. I'm going to meetings. And I scared them to death, man. I think that's why they gave it to me. They didn't want me to use. But anyways, we know what it's like. When that guy said you could either go to 8th and I in Washington, D.C., you can go to embassy duty, you can be a drill instructor, you can do anything you want to do if you re-enlist. The drill instructor, I kind of like that idea. Something about abusing people was fancying me at the time. But I said, no, because if I stay, y'all going to make me unhappy, because y'all been doing that for 4 years now. So I think I'll go on and take the honorable discharge, and thanks a lot. And I realized today that little best thinking of mine, that little geographic, the misery I thought I was having, the Marine Corps saved my life, man. They rescued me from my disease, man. I know that today. And I got a lot of gratitude for them guys. And I do a lot of prison and jail meetings, and I always hear those inmates talk about how the prison and jail rescued them. And I know what they're talking about. I was rescued too. Anyways, I came back to Richmond. I got home in December 83, and I went to a meeting. The second I hit the ground, I went to a meeting. I make meetings every day. I'm one of those, they say go to a meeting every day. I went every day. Something was a little different in Richmond, though, than Hawaii. A little bit weird. I couldn't quite put my finger on. They weren't hugging as much. They hugged a lot in Hawaii. It doesn't matter where you went. They got that hugging spirit over there. But I went to an NA meeting in Richmond. I only had 3 NA meetings a week in Richmond. And I know what it was. I was the cleanest person in the room. I only had me a little whopping 16 months clean. And not only did I have the most clean time, but I was the smartest one in the room. And that scared me to death. And I noticed when the basket went around, I always put $1 in it, but at the end of the meeting, there won't have no money in the basket. So I'm sort of questioning this thing. Well, I was doing the 2-program thing at the time, because I am not putting my life in the hands of that little situation there. But as we added a meeting on, I'd go to that meeting. As we added a meeting on, I'd go to that meeting. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was part of probably the greatest growth period of Narcotics Anonymous. At the time, I thought I was just doing what I had to do to stay clean. But looking back, what an incredible, incredible experience that was in my life. To see where we were at that time and see where we're at today, knowing that we ain't seen nothing yet, where we going. I may not see it, but you young ones will see it. We just on the cutting edge of this thing. Now, in Washington, D.C., they had a world convention in the mid-'80s, late 80s. Some of you old guys know where it was. I went there. First time I've really been to a big convention like that. And I met a guy. We talked for hours. To Gino from Houston. Y'all know Gino. Some of y'all do. And we had that discussion about 2 programs, 2 diseases. And this is when I had a spiritual awakening. And I talked to Gino. He cornered me for about an hour. You ain't going to get by Gino anything under an hour. And keep in mind that these world conventions, all you're doing is hugging people, all right? It's like a hug fest, just thousands of them all weekend long, man. So your defenses are down. You ain't thinking straight, all this love going around, And it was just bunches of them, man. But Gino, he explained to me how this disease thing was, and I sat there and I prayed to God over and over and over, please, God, what is your will for me? What is the situation with this? I'm scared. I don't believe I can get it just going to NA alone. And the answer I got was simple. 1 disease, 1 program, you go to NA. You don't need to go nowhere else. You've been clean about 5 years now. You're doing good, man. You got NA meetings. You got 1 every night of the week now in Richmond. You be the leader. You show the newcomer what needs to be done. You can do it. If you do that, you can do it. Now, I ain't one of those. I never had a bad experience in the other program, by the way. Nobody ever told me I couldn't come in there because they knew I'd kill them. But I carried myself like that. We'll get it straight here. So I'm not one of those, you hear a lot of guys and girls talk how they had experiences. Mine were all good, okay? That gratitude I got for the Marine Corps, I got that same gratitude for AA, man. They were there when I needed them. They saved my life. They got me healthy. They made it so when I become that spiritual purist, I was there. I was fit, set, ready to roll. We had a purist movement going around the country about that time. And I guess it needed to happen the way it did, but I always felt kind of bad about that because, I never got beat up or beat anybody up, so to speak. Today, I like that love thing we got going strong today. That's important. Anyways, my life, it got going good, it got going fast, it got going regular. I'm making meetings every day. I got my sponsor. Incidentally, I got the same sponsor I got today I've had for 18 years. 18 years he's been the same one. So when they say get a sponsor, get yourself a sponsor. Don't be scared. It'd be the best thing you probably ever do. I had a home group. I never missed my home group. I was there an hour early every week. You come to my home group a half hour early, I'm sitting there, coffee's made, and I'm waiting on you. To this day, my home group, I bet we got 15, 20 people there an hour early to this day when you come to my home group. I did everything the program suggested I do. I was involved in subcommittees. I helped put on conventions. I did the service work. I did H&I meetings. I went to meetings. I sponsored people. I did everything I was supposed to do, and my life got really, really good. My business excelled. I was a very successful businessman. I'm a paint contractor by trade. I had one of the largest companies in town, the fastest growing company. I was respected by my peers in business. My life was good. My family life was healed. My mama, my daddy, my brothers, my sisters, they all liked me. They cared about me. Life was just wonderful. When I was 13 years clean, I married a woman. We had a child. My life was good. 13 years clean. She come home one day and said, honey, I don't love you. I'm leaving. This is what it's going to cost you. That was a pretty tough moment in my life. I got to tell you the truth, man. I didn't know how to handle that. For 13 straight years, my life got better, 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 better. And then within a split second, the bottom fell out. I never cried my life up until that day, by the way. I collapsed. I went into stress syndrome, traumatic stress syndrome, because later I found out it was post-traumatic stress syndrome. I couldn't budge, man. I'd say it was about a week before I could actually do anything decent. My support group, up until that time, I probably, I helped lots of folks. I think we all do that. You hang around. They saved my life, man. They came to my house. They sat with me. And this is serious business here. I'm telling you, man. And, y'all don't know how crazy I am. This is very serious. And all I kept thinking about, I never thought about using drugs, but damn, I didn't think of killing her on a daily basis for about 6 months. And myself. I had no fear here. And my support group, man, they just rowdy around me. I'm so glad I helped all them folks because they turned around. I got it back on that one. And thank God we were kind of both in the program, too, because when the divorce thing come around, boy, I sure did use that. You dumped me. You know what? How can you keep doing all this other stuff to me? And so, it was a pretty decent divorce as far as divorces go. But the big news was I couldn't work for about a year. I was a very intense businessman, worked many hours all the time. And I ran the type of business you had to be there for. If you weren't there, you ain't going to make it. And I spent all my money that first year in that divorce proceeding thing. I'm talking, it's a lot of money. I was the other day adding up the values of I lost on my real estates alone with $4 million at today's value. So, that, ain't no chump change for a guy that was sleeping in a hallway in an apartment building in Denver, Colorado, stinking of urine and spitting duck feathers. It's weird, man. Up until that time, I do remember a couple things. I was a member of a country club, and I had sponsors calling me on the golf course, and it was like they were bothering me. You know, it was like, man, I'll see you at the meeting tonight or call me later. Don't call me on the golf course. You know, and I'm thinking, why is all these things happening in my life? And I think back, knowing where I'm at today, and I'm telling you, man, there was some silver linings here. My life stepped up a little bit after that. I was miserable as hell. After about a year, I went to Myrtle Beach to the Serenity Fest. And, I met this girl down there. And, long story short, we fell in love. We got married. She's actually doing a sponsorship workshop tomorrow. Her name's Carol. She's a little Irish girl sitting there. Raise your hand, Carol. She'd tell you what not to do in a relationship, I can tell you that. She was clean for many years. And I thought she was clean when I fell in love with her. It turned out she was relapsing, lying about it. Imagine that. I'm one of those, don't mess with the newcomers, right? But here, I had to go through that little process there, thinking, well, she's not a newcomer. She had all these years, and she's just relapsing. Old time is what she is. Oh, I know what they mean now. Yeah, I got it now. I didn't get it then, though. But anyway, that's really turned out good, too, actually. She's been clean many years now again. She works in Washington. She's a lobbyist in Washington, and I'm a, redneck from Virginia. And it was weird, man. When we were dating, she was taking me around the hill. I was meeting all her buddies, and she used to always worry who she'd introduce me to, She'd now, look, you got to dress right, you got to talk right. Don't embarrass me, It's like, how can I embarrass you? I talk about my recovery everywhere I go, and to this day, I don't think I've had an embarrassing moment. Matter of fact, these people, when they got a problem in the family, who do you think they're going to call? They call us. They call me, So that stigma Joseph was talking about, I mean, that's real. That is real. I don't suffer from the stigma attached to the disease of addiction. I can tell you that. My life, I got too much good things to do to worry about that. Me. Now, I know some people worry about that. Hopefully one day you won't worry as much about that. Anyways, she took me out to one of her clients one time. We went out to Betty Ford. Senator Betty's one of her clients. And she's having me meet President Ford and Betty Ford, right? And she's all nervous, And I said, what are you so nervous about? She said, look, John, you just got no idea how sick you make me sometimes on the things I'm worried you're going to do. And, I took offense to that. We met. Things were good. They liked me. I played golf with the big boys, the board of directors. They loved me. I'm the only guy in these guys' circles that ain't kissing no ass trying to get nothing. I don't want nothing. Matter of fact, I'm here to give. I'm going to give you a message of recovery if you like it, but I'm in a contributory mode here. And we went back a year later, the same meeting, and this time when I showed up, President Ford walked straight up to me, shook my hand, and said, John, where you been, man? I'm so glad you come back this year. How you been? So that fear and worry turned into, this is how we are. This is how we get, man. We are lovable, likable, wantable people, man. We get like that. That's who we are. We have a disease that will kill us if we let it. I actually wrote this down so I didn't mess this part up. I can't remember shit. I really can't, man. Anybody play golf? Can you imagine being the best golfer in the world and you go to bed and you wake up and you ain't got nothing? It all went away when you went to sleep. Well, that's how I am with recovery sometimes. For you new people in here, you're going to like this one. If you're an addict, if you have the disease of addiction and you want to recover from that disease, I'm going to tell you right now that we have never seen a person relapse who lives the Narcotics Anonymous program. Page 73, third edition of the basic text, chapter 7. Now, it gets even better. In our experience, no addict who has completely surrendered to this program has ever failed to find recovery. What is the NA program, you might ask yourself? We read it at every meeting. Very important piece of reading. Matter of fact, they make it real clear that complete abstinence from all drugs. Oh, this is a program of complete abstinence from all drugs. Yeah, damn near screwed that up. We're an abstinence-based program, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to use drugs, you might have a hard time getting what we got that don't use drugs. I tell these guys I sponsor all the time, you get what you get when you do what you do. You keep using drugs, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. It's all in the second step. You know, you learn in the first step, I can't do no drugs, man. If I do any drug in any form, it's jails, institutions, and death. I can't manage my life either. Couldn't manage it then, can't manage it now. Matter of fact, I got some bad news for you guys. Manageability gets worse with clean time. I'm convinced of that. Gets way worse. But you got to simplify your life, too. Matter of fact, if you just go around like I do all day, all right, God, what next, what next, what next? You don't have to worry about trying to manage nothing because you know what next is coming and you're going to be in charge of it. You know, the second step tells us, don't waste any time thinking of using drugs because if you do, you're going to go to jails, institutions, and death. We start thinking, you know, I think we just don't like the way we feel, so we want to use drugs to change the way we feel, okay? Now, we learned in the first step that using drugs to change the way we feel don't work no more. And the second step says just to even begin to think about that, you're going to have a problem. And if you think you cannot do it, you're going to be sadly mistaken. Not only that, you've got to find something outside yourself to help you with that power greater than ourselves. Now, my power is you guys right here. I tell you that. It's you. Whenever I want to use, if I'm around y'all, I talk about it, I don't use. Plain and simple. And, you know, that wanting to use piece, you know, sometimes you say, what is all that? I said, what are we really all about here, okay? Well, the truth of the matter is, an addict, y'all know where I'm going with this, any addict can stop using drugs, and they can lose that desire to use drugs, and they can find a new way to live. That's what we do here. I got a friend, he keeps relapsing, chronic relapses. I like to call it abstinent, recovery, resistant, something or another. Relapse, too strong a phrase. And he said, John, I don't have that desire to stop using drugs. I said, no. You have a desire to feel good. You have a desire for the easier, softer way. Don't you know you can do that in recovery and not use drugs? Don't you know that? Aren't you getting that piece? It's okay to want to feel good all the time. There's nothing wrong with that, but it ain't going to happen all the time. I can tell you that now. It doesn't happen for the regular people out there. They don't feel good all the time. And when they don't feel good, they don't go to jail, institutions, or die. No, they wait for the feeling to pass. Or they'll go to the movies, read a book. You know, some of them, I guess, take a Valium, but they do that long, they're going to be one of us. So, you know, the simple thing is, I found out through the steps, man, that second step's important because I think that separates us from the regular people in the world. This is where the brain chemistry comes in, folks. This is where our wires are crossed. We ain't feeling right. We want to kill ourselves. We think we're going to feel better, but yet we know we're going to kill ourselves. That right there is the nature. Any brain chemists in here? Dopamine, neurotransmitter, GABA, all that crap. I think that's it right there. Third step, my will in my life, rip and run, baby. Didn't care who got in the way. That's my life. It was easy for me to do my third step. You know, how hard is it to turn over to ripping and running? Jails, institutions, and death. That's a no-brainer. And the God piece for me, when I first had to get right with the God of my understanding, believe me, I was nervous. I didn't want to play the God game. I don't really like playing it now, but it's okay now. But back then, I didn't like it. I was sitting in Sizzler Steakhouse. Claudia knows where that's at. Me and this crazy guy, I hated his guts, man. We sitting in his booth drinking coffee one night after the meeting. 3 months clean. I didn't like the guy. And we all hitting on the same waitress, too. And she didn't want nothing to do with any of us, actually. She was just working for tips, baby. But he started telling me about the guy of his understanding. He said, John, you can have a God of your understanding. All you got to realize, you ain't it, number one. Make that real clear. But two, the God of your understanding, I mean, so I sat there and he said, what would you like? I said, okay. What I walked away with was this. God of my understanding does not want me to use drugs, does not want me to kill myself, does not want me to hurt people. Plain and simple. Help people if I can. Plain and simple. Be a better person. Plain and simple. That's it. That's it. I can do that just for today. That can be the God of my understanding. Then later, as years went by, you know, we changed it up a little bit, added some things, but I won't go there because you newcomers out here. Get your own God of your understanding. You can't have mine. You know, the 6th and 7th step, you know, the 4th and the 5th were what they was. You know, the 6th and 7th are hard steps. Them shortcomings and character defects, anybody know an old timer knows they must be hard. You heard it said the difference between the 6th and the 7th, a character defect and a shortcoming. Character defects like that flat tire. Shortcoming is like driving on that flat tire. Knowing you got one, you shouldn't do it. Because if you do, it's going to get worse. You're going to ruin the wheel. You got to, you know. I drive on flats all the time myself, man. I do, actually. I mean, it's bad, I know. But, you know, I'm so glad I did an 8th and a 9th back when I did it. You know, it's kind of weird. It's harder for me now to do an 8th and a 9th step than it was when I was new. 10th step. You know, the best thing I like about the 10th step, it allows us to be human beings, and when we act human, it allows us a way to deal with it. You know, earth people don't get to do that. They wouldn't know how to amend the situation if they had to. A lot of them don't even think they're ever wrong. Our 10th step makes it real clear. We're going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong regular. It don't say if you were wrong. It says when you're wrong. You promptly admit it, and you amend the situation. Some people out here think amend is saying you're sorry, too. I got news for you. That ain't an amends. Amend means to fix something, make it back the way it was. Better if you can. Man, I hate them guys coming to me. Oh, I'm so sorry, I stole your computer. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm calling the sheriff. You owe me some payments, big boy. You know, there's a book come out a while back, Purpose-Driven Life. Y'all probably heard of it. We live in the Bible Belt where I live. I ain't a Bible thumper either. Getting kind of warm. This is why my wife is nervous about the way I dress on Capitol Hill. No shit, man. We was at an inauguration one time, out on the balcony as the president goes by, and she said, now look, John, don't you say nothing. Okay, this is one of them Clinton inaugurations. Now, I ain't saying nothing. She knows that's how I felt. And as that motorcade went by, all her buddies were on the balcony yelling down there at old Clinton when he went by, you know, throwing things, booing him, and I'm sitting there, see there? I'm better than the people you're working with, man. Inside joke, y'all probably wouldn't get it. Anyways, those guys in my area, they was all up in arms about the purpose-driven life. You know, they was out trying to get people to get with the purpose-driven life. I started helping folks in my area. I opened up a recovery resource organization. Basically, I help folks. And I started helping these people. And they would get with me, and I could look them in the eye and say, you know what, I know my purpose in life. My purpose is plain and it's simple. I'm to carry a message of recovery to an addict that they need it. I'm to carry a message of recovery to professionals if they need it. I need to let them know what we do here. I've taken on that role. I'll tell a politician in a heartbeat what good policy might be, and I do. So, and they attracted to that. These people that think, you know, they need to do that, when they see me, one of my home group, preacher came down to my home group, got me one day and said, John, I want you to come up Sunday morning and talk to my people. I'm trying to get up there what you guys got down here. True story, true story. And I went up there, and ever since then, I mean, that relationship with that church has got incredible. But my purpose is simple. Carry the message, carry the message, carry the message. As long as I'm doing that, I ain't got to worry about nothing, man. My life is good. My life is good. We started a recovery organization. We got the only recovery community center in Virginia, in my town. I'm the founder and president and chief toilet washer of that organization. Been doing it 2 years, been paid 3 times. Not bad. Ain't about the money. Got several halfway houses we operate. I used to have 7 halfway houses a few years back that I sort of sold during my divorce. Swore I'd never do that again, but we got 3 now, starting a new one next week, actually a 4th one. We got 28 beds, and we got 31 people in these houses. Some got to get on the couch. We started a new rule, too. If you don't pay your rent, you got to give up your bed. You go to the couch. Now, I ain't kidding, on payday, they're supposed to pay rent every Friday. If we get 10 of them paying, that's a good day. So I can't wait till we start that new rule, because I'd like to see 20 of them piled up on the living room floor. I do a lot of jail. I go to a lot of jails and prisons, man. I can't tell you how some of the most rewarding periods of my life is to go to jails and prisons. And we not only do the H&I meetings, but I take programming in there, peer-to-peer delivered services, recovering addicts going into an institution and delivering recovery information to the inmates. Awesome, awesome. Some of y'all ought to try that. We did this guy I sponsored. He was in prison. He actually just got out. He just did 7 years. 4 of his last 4 was clean. He got out on his 4-year anniversary. His name's Mike. I got to say the word Matt, too. My boy Matt said, just say my name, Matt, on the tape, and I'll buy you a tape, man. I'll listen to it forever. So this is for Matt. But anyway, Mike got out. But everywhere he went in Virginia, he went about everywhere, too. This was a touring prisoner. Everywhere he went, he told people about us. And I get mail every single day from an institution in Virginia. When I get out, can I please come to your recovery house? I want to come help your organization. I even got inmates send me $10 donations from their prison money fund, man. I mean, you don't hear about that. Anyways, oh yeah, this is where I was going. Mike, Virginia don't like addiction, by the way. We're one of those states where the solution for helping addicts is build another jail or prison. We are currently warehousing 56,000 addicts in jails and prisons right now. We don't believe in walking in and getting public assistance. You an addict, just go over there, commit a crime, go to jail. Anyways, so they're strict on us there. Anyway, this guy, we took a speaker jam to this guy's prison he was in. They never had one there before. The warden took me about 4 or 5 trips going up there bugging this guy, let us bring in a speaker jam. I even had to reduce it and change the name and call it a panel jam, okay? And we took in 17 recovering addicts to this institution, and we set up a microphone, we recorded it, and all of us spoke for about 4 or 5 minutes. And before we started, the warden came up and said, you know, welcome to prison. Anything we can do for you while you're here, let us know. I don't know what a panel jam is, but we're getting ready to find out. And when we got finished, that warden got up there, he had tears in his eyes. He said, God, I wish I was an addict and I could come here. He said, and you know, he got it. He got it. He never got it before. But when you see addicts sharing with other addicts, you will get this thing. You'll understand what we're all about. That's where that stigma reduction thing comes. I spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people. You know, there's some people in here, this might be your only NA meeting you ever go to. You know, and I want you to know, if this is the only one you're going to go to, please don't judge NA by me or what I'm saying. Please, I got to make that clear. I'm sharing my experience here, by the way. But you got to know that there's a place here where you're wanted and you're loved, and you can come here and you can recover from your disease if you're new here. You know, we also know we ain't going to get this thing, too. You know, we got our own way of doing things in Narcotics Now. We talk about it in our literature. You know, this ain't for everybody. It's only for those that kind of want it. If it was for everybody, we'd be meeting at the Coliseum. But as it is, it's for those that want it. That's why we meet in church basements. And every now and then, a big room like this. Narcotics Anonymous, to me, is, we say it in our basic text, it's a way of life. This is my way of life. I'm proud of that way of life, I really am. Some people might not like to hear that. You may not want this to be your way of life. That's okay. You don't have to let it be your way of life. We don't make you do anything here. We have a proven method of recovery from the disease of addiction, and we're proving it. We're proving it right now. A lot of clean time in this room, a lot of people here. A friend of mine came in NA years ago. We helped him beat a 20-year charge. He got lucky. He only had to do 2 years. And he was clean a year before he did them 2 years. We went to his court, we went to his sentencing, and every weekend addicts were at his visiting hours. Every weekend. Every one of us took collect calls. For 2 years, we took his collect calls, visited him, put money on his books. And when he got out of prison, he didn't go to NA no more. He goes to AA. And I'm sitting there, I was talking to him a couple years ago. I said, what in the hell was that all about? He said, well, you know, and this is 20 years ago too, by the way. This is where he was 20 years ago. He said, well, you know, there ain't no recovery in NA. If you want real recovery, you got to go to AA. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is the part where I cuss. You son of a bitch. The hell you mean there ain't no recovery in NA, man? God damn, look around the room here. Come on. I mean, there's plenty of recovery in Narcotics Anonymous. You come to NA today, you coming somewhere, baby. We got over 100 meetings a week in Richmond right now. You got over 100 here. Hell, we got so many meetings in Richmond, we divide up in several different areas, man. Every time I turn around, we got another area popping up. Apparently there's a rule, you can't have too many people at area service. Too much chaos and confusion. Which I actually think is good, come think about it, you know, get your needs met. The newcomer today, it's a little different than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I can only imagine 30 years ago what you guys went through, man. We don't have that problem then. And I promise you, as long as I'm alive, there ain't no newcomer going to have that problem in my life. I promise you that. You in my sponsorship family, you know you in a sponsorship family. You know you got sponsor, in Narcotics Anonymous. You know, we're proud of that. That's actually a custom and tradition of ours. You can't read it in the literature. They just wrote a sponsorship book and they don't even touch on that in there, how important that is. Not knocking that piece of literature, though. I was actually on that committee. Just goes to show they let anybody on the committee at World Service. I even wrote a lot of stuff for that book, sent it in, too. They didn't print none of it. And it was good. I mean, me and my sponsor, Kermit, for those of you who know Kermit, we're going to write our own book one day, I think, as we see it. You see it? You feel it? Can you feel it in here tonight? The fun, the laughter, the cheers, the energy. Do we sound depressed to anybody? Are we depressed? No. We wouldn't come back here if we were depressed. Man, we're here because we want to live. We want to live clean. We want to live without the desire to use drugs. The desire is going to go away. Some of y'all want to use, but trust me, you keep coming back, that desire will leave, man. You know, somewhere along the way in my recovery, it occurred to me, I don't want to use drugs anymore. Not only that, they make me sick to think about. Matter of fact, it's been replaced with the desire to try to be a good person and help people. Ain't that some weird shit? And the best part of it all, as long as I keep doing what I've been doing to get what I get, I'll keep getting what I got. All I got to do is suit up and show up. Man, you count me in, man. Why would you want to get clean and have a good life and knowing giving it away is the way you keep it? And quit coming and don't give it away no more. You're going to die. You can't do it. Some do it. I met a few every now and then. I see them at them 7-Elevens. Hey, you still going to the meetings? Yeah, I'm going about every day if I can get to them. Man, I ain't been in 15 years. You don't need that shit. said, man, what are you doing? I'm going down and get my Social Security check, man. I said, man, you better get your ass to a meeting, boy. Think about this. I ask my inmates all the time. I go into them jails and prisons. I'm one of the few that can really mess with these guys. I said, how many of y'all would stay clean? If you could get out of jail and prison, and the only thing you got to do to stay out and keep from coming back is go to meeting. Get involved in NA. Every one of them raised their hand. Every one. I mean, some of these meetings are 200 inmates. They all raise their hand. But when they get out, how many of them show up at the meetings? Not many, but I'll tell you one thing, they ain't showing up now. You know, what we're doing, they're showing up. You know, we go up in there, we inspire them people. This is the part I like. This is the part that kills the politicians. We know the number one thing that makes it so hard to reach an addict is a closed mind. Closed mind will kill you every time. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, the three ingredients we got to have. Now, when you're in a jail or prison, them boys are honest. They got a problem and they know it. They got an open mind because they want to hear anything on how to get the hell out of here. And that is exactly where I want to get them. Like this meeting tonight. Some of y'all in this room tonight, you have an open mind and you want the information we got. And you're the ones that got the best chance of staying clean and getting this thing. Those guys in jails and prisons, half of them got a great chance of finding a new way to live. They may not stay clean the rest of their life, but they will have a reference point in their brain where to go when they need to go and get help. And in my home group, 100 people there, I bet 50 of them come out of a jail or prison we took a message into. And they coming every day. We're going to have to expand my home group. I can see it coming now. Now, actually, I just piss a lot of people off when we spread out and start new meetings, man. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Don't never think, you see people come in here, they get a year clean. They come up in here, I got my year, but they use. Why'd you use, man? Well, I wasn't willing to keep doing what I was doing to get here. Or the guys that get in the relationships, the girls that get in the relationships, you ever notice that? Man, I didn't have a relationship until I was 3 years clean. Y'all come in here and get a girl in 30 days? What the hell is that all about, man? And you get feelings and you use, and vice versa. If you've been around a while, I know there's some clean time in here, you know exactly the point where an addict screws up and relapses. You know that. I know it, you know it if you've been here a while. They didn't go to meetings, they weren't willing to do the work, you're honest enough you got the problem, you're open-minded to hear the solution, but you're not willing to do the solution. You got to do all three, man. You can't decide you're going to do 2 out of the 3. Graveyard's full of 2 out of 3s. Honesty, open-mindedness. Well, I've been clean a while now. I love every day of my life. I can't wait to get up and do something, man, because I know I'm going to carry the message that day. Can't go wrong if you're carrying the message. You can't go wrong. Joe was right, man. My congressman, he knows shit about addiction. I invited him over to my house one night. I had about 100 of my close buddies up there. And he was scared, man. He showed up shaking his hand, but when he left, he was hugging everybody. That's true. He said, you know what, I get it now. Now I get this thing. I know what you're all about. I had no idea. They thought an addict was what they saw on the news every night. That dead person in the alley, the gunfight, the shoplifting, bad guys, you see them on TV? That's what they think an addict is. They don't know this is what an addict is. A recovering person in the community, in this room. This is the face of addiction right here. It's a recovering face. They don't know that. And that's the stigma. Jim McKay knew what the hell he was talking about. He talked about that World Convention in New York when he went live from Saturday night. He always wanted to do that. He talks about how important it is to get out there and let people know we recover, man. Jimmy wasn't no slouch, man. He was the man. He was the man. I love everything I ever heard about Jimmy. I got to know him real well through Fawn, for those of you who know Fawn. Crazy old girl. But Jimmy had a vision, and we in the vision right now. That vision's alive. Whoever read, thanked Jimmy earlier. Y'all need to know who Jim is. If you don't know, you got to ask an old timer. You got to find out. Because them guys really had it hard, man. You think you're struggling now, you should have been one of them guys. I don't know if I could have made it. Anyways, I could stand up here all night. Because I love to talk. But I don't need to. I think you're getting the message, man. We're clean, we're happy, we can't wait to share it and give it away, man. You keep doing that, you're going to be all right. Thank you very much for letting me share.